All of us have cancer cells in our bodies, but all of us also have a body designed to fight the process of tumor development.
We're going to discuss the things that you can do to strengthen your body's defenses against cancer. This is hard to believe. Hang on to your chairs. The woman who benefited from this basic health advice had a 68% reduction in mortality from breast cancer. This is a stunning number. It is so stunning that if this were a medication, first you would have heard about it, and second, it would probably be malpractice not to prescribe it. So my most sincere wish is that together we're contributing today to spreading this true hope. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here today with all of you. My name is Dr. David Servan-Schreiber, and welcome to Anti-Cancer. Together, we have an incredible opportunity to help spread a message of hope, that it is in our power to support our bodies so we avoid getting cancer in the first place, or if we already have cancer, that we can slow it down considerably. What I'm about to unfold for you here today is a story. This is the last picture that was taken of me 18 years ago, just a few weeks before my life turned around. I was a young university-based physician and neuroscientist. I had a very successful early career, which made me not only very ambitious, but a little bit arrogant as well. But 2 weeks later, I was running a brain scanning experiment at the University of Pittsburgh. And one evening, one of the subjects didn't show up. We didn't want to waste the precious scanner time, so we decided with my friends and colleagues that I would go into the scanner. I did that, and a few minutes later, my best friend, Jonathan, called me from the control room of the scanner and said, David, there's a problem. We're coming in. So he came into the room, he pulled me out of the machine, and he put his hand on mine, and he said, David, there's something in your brain, and we can't do the experiment. And that's how I learned with Jonathan that I had brain cancer. And a few weeks after that happened, of course, I got conventional treatment. This is what it looks like. Many of you know about that. And that conventional treatment saved my life. However, a few years later, as often happens with these kinds of tumors, I relapsed. And I had to have surgery a second time. I had to have chemotherapy and I had to have radiotherapy, which again saved my life. But I understood that if I stuck with conventional treatment alone, I was very likely to get a conventional outcome only. And I wanted to hang on to something a little bit more positive than that. And I decided I would use my skills as a physician and as a scientist to find out everything I could in the scientific literature about how I could help my body above and beyond the conventional treatments so that I would make it to this very tail end of the survival curve. And the lessons I learned from the scientific literature is what I want to share with you today. One of the first lessons may seem a little strange, and it actually may seem a little depressing, but it's full of hope. The first lesson I learned, not being an oncologist, I was a neuropsychiatrist and neuroscientist. The first lesson I learned is that we actually manufacture cancer cells all the time. Our bodies make cancer cells all the time. So we all have cancer cells. We are also all exposed to cancer-promoting factors, carcinogens that are part of our environment. We're all exposed to that. You can't avoid it. So that's interesting. We all have cancer cells. We're all exposed to carcinogens. Yet only 1 in 4 of us, it's a lot of people, but it's only 1 in 4 of us will die of cancer. Which means by definition that for 3 out of 4 people, there are some natural mechanisms in our bodies that prevent those cancer cells and those carcinogens from creating a dangerous disease. Obviously, my natural defenses had failed me. So I wanted to understand what happens that some natural defenses can fail, whereas at other times they work better. This here on the screen is the curve of the progression of the number of cases of breast cancers in the US. You see that starting around 1940, these numbers have been growing steadily and at a very fast pace. Now, for a long time, when I was an academic physician, or even in medical school, we had been told that yes, the numbers of breast cancers are going up, but this is because the population is growing, so mathematically there's more cases of cancer. Population is getting older, and cancer is a disease of older age, therefore, by definition, there's going to be more cases of cancer. And finally, we're doing systematic screening now for cancer. We're going and looking for them, so that brings up the numbers. Therefore, the underlying message was, there's nothing to worry about. You know, this is all just normal. Don't worry about anything. But that turns out to not be true. These factors exist, and of course they do bring up the number of breast cancer in the country. But that accounts for roughly 50% of that increase. And the best proof that these explanations are not enough to account for why we have such rising rates of cancer is the cancer rates in children. We know that cancer rates in children have been going up by 1 to 1.5% per year for the last 30 or 40 years. And obviously children are not older, and we don't screen to detect cancer in children. So there is something happening to us which makes cancer rates go up, and it is not just that we're getting older or that we're screening. Another way to look at it is geographically. And this is really interesting. This is the result of a massive study that was done by the World Health Organization in the 80s, where they went to every country in the world, they took populations of the same age, and they used the same detection method to identify the rates of a variety of cancers. And the map you're seeing here is the map of breast cancer in the world at the end of the 1980s. The countries that are in red are the countries with the highest numbers of breast cancer. And what you see immediately on this map is that the countries that are most affected by breast cancers are Western European countries, United States, and Canada. So they're northern Western societies. When breast cancer affects the southern hemisphere, what you're seeing is that it's primarily all the way to the right and bottom of the screen in Australia and New Zealand. When it affects countries in South America, it's primarily Argentina and Chile. And interestingly, these are societies that have developed along the same kind of Western industrial lifestyle that we have over the last 50 years. In Africa, the only country that has some level of breast cancer is South Africa, which also has developed along Western industrialized lifestyle. In some region of rural China, the big green blob on the right of the screen here, in some regions of rural China, these investigators from the World Health Organization could not find any case of breast cancer. Now pause on this for a second. Think about the number of people around you that you know, number of women with breast cancer that you know, and think about a region of the world, massively populated, where you can't find any case of breast cancer. What is going on?